With the official start of the NFL free agency period less than a week away, the Vikings will have to get some more cap space if they want to go out and get a high-priced free agent offensive lineman, maybe even depth at wide receiver, or even re-sign one of their current players to a longer contract. So let's dive straight into this and look at my 9 Minnesota Vikings that could be cut or restructured or traded. So let's dive straight into it, and let's look at one of the Vikings' prized offensive lineman acquisitions of the last couple of years, Riley Reiff. If we wanted to cut Riley Reiff, we would save $9.5 million. He's currently the 14th highest paid tackle in the NFL, being paid a lot of money. But despite him underperforming last year, he was still our best offensive lineman, and I think far and away our best. You know, Brian O'Neill came and stole the show and was solid in the pass game, but he was horrible against the run. And Reiff was probably a second best in both aspects on their team. Very dependable. I know he struggled in times, but everybody did, and he was still the most consistent in the hardest position to play on the offensive line. So I think the Vikings will have to keep him. I think he's a very valuable piece, even though he's getting paid a lot of money. I think the Vikings will want to restructure Reiff, though, and if we can get this deal about to the $5 million range, that would place him in the 36th overall contracts for offensive tackles. So I think if we could restructure that, that'd be great. But if we have to suck it up and deal with the high price Riley Reiff, I think his value is worth overpaying a little bit if the Vikings can't find a good replacement, because he will be our left tackle this upcoming season. Moving next, Everson Griffin. If we cut Everson, we'd save $10.5 million. He's currently the 10th highest paid defensive end, right behind Danielle Hunter. He could be a distraction in the clubhouse over his mental illness that he suffered last year and how that might affect other teammates. But he's still a leader, still an absolute energizer for the defense. I don't think there's any other better vocal leader on the whole team. And he still definitely has Pro Bowl talent, and you can make the case that he's probably, if he lives up to it and doesn't have anything else come up, he's still right around a top 10 defensive end, right where his contract says. So with the talent to be right where his contract is at, I don't think the Vikings will want to trade him, especially if Anthony Barr leaves. Everson's too valuable. I could see him shifting to the end of career Brian Robinson role, to where Stephen Weatherly could come in and play some more snaps, and it's more of a 50-50 split at that defensive end spot, and then Danielle Hunter can be the man on the other side. So I do think the Vikings will want to restructure him and move his deal down, not a huge savings, down to about $7.5 million, which would put him in the 20th defensive end as far as what he'd be getting next year. So I think a deal like that, maybe 3 years, and have that $7.5 million a year guaranteed extension would be good. And I think that'd be a good way to keep Everson around, because we really, really want him around. I think the team loves him, and I think he helps everybody, even if he's not playing. So keep Everson. Moving on to a guy that was very rough last year, Mike Remmers. If we cut Mike Remmers, we save $4.5 million. He's currently the 34th ranked tackle according to Sport Track. They still have him listed as a tackle as far as that list. So that's even probably worse if you put him in the guards. We lose our worst starting offensive lineman. And maybe most importantly, we simply do not have a spot for him. I came up with the only scenario I could think of that would make sense for us to keep Remmers, and that would involve either cutting Reiff or moving Reiff to guard, moving O'Neill to left tackle, and putting Remmers at right tackle where he's average at best. So that's the best scenario, and I think that's way too many moving pieces, and it's just a big shift just to keep our worst lineman. So I think he's a simply cut. There's no good reason to keep him around. Moving on. Kyle Rudolph. If we cut Kyle Rudolph, we would save $7.6 million next year. He's currently the 6th highest paid tight end in the NFL. and he wasn't used well last year at all, having one of his worst years of his career and just the lowest impact I think we've ever seen. It's a loaded tight end draft class this year, which a big reason to not get him. We could draft a tight end that could have as much of an impact right off day one. But if we do get rid of him, we lose our best red zone threat, our best red zone weapon. I love Diggs. He's been very good at catching touchdowns. Adam Thielen had one good year last year where he caught a lot of touchdowns. But the threat up the middle, I think, takes a lot of pressure off those two. So I think the Vikings would love to still have Kyle Rudolph to be present there. And Man of the Year candidate. It's of course football first, but if he's that good in the community, you can't even help to know how good he is to his teammates and how everybody loves him, and it really brings the whole clubhouse together. He's not as outspoken and rah-rah as Everson, but I'm sure Rudolph is a leader in his own way. So I think the Vikings will restructure Rudolph and bring him down to around a $4 million deal. This would be right under Jason Witten, which I think would be right around where he should be. This would make him the 18th highest paid tight end instead of 6th. So I think that's right around where he should be. So I think that's what should happen. Moving on to everybody's favorite wide receiver, Laquon Treadwell. Reason to cut him: the Vikings get a roster spot. Reason not to cut him: we saved nothing. His contract is still guaranteed next year, so he is going to stay no matter what everybody wants. The Vikings fans want Treadwell gone so bad, but this is going to be his last chance to prove it, and you can either decide to hate on him and hope that he sucks even worse so you get a few good laughs, or that he proves that he can be a decent number 3 or number 4, or even maybe even good enough to just be a situational weapon to help the team out next year. But he will be on the roster next year unless something bizarre happens. Moving on, Andrew Sendejo. If we cut him, we save $5.5 million. He's currently the 10th. The 10th, a top 10, the 10th highest paid safety in the NFL. We have Anthony Harris, who outplayed Sendejo last year and has played about as good as him in years prior. And Sendejo has injury history basically because he tackles neck and head first. And the reason that it would not be ideal is that we're selling him low. I made a deal at the end of training camp last year when the Vikings signed Georgia Locke. I was like, alright, this is a perfect time to trade Sendejo. He had a great 2017 season. We're selling him high. We have a Locke in the building, Jaron Curse, and Anthony Harris. We have all these safeties. Let's get rid of Sendejo. Everybody hated that video because, oh my god, how stupid that was. Then also on this year, Sendejo plays like 2 games and he's gone for the year, and Anthony Harris was very good. So, we cut Sendejo and don't trade him like I said we could do last year. Yay! Moving on, we have three corners. The Vikings have Rhodes, Waynes, McKenzie, Holton Hill, and our second-year cornerback, Mike Hughes, who's coming off an ACL injury. So that's a loaded defensive backfield. I know it's good to have depth, especially since the Vikings always have this rough luck with the injury bug. But I don't think you can afford to have that type of depth at corner when we need to use that somewhere else. So I think one of these 3 would be very valuable pieces to trade to help out a different part of the team. So let's break all 3 down. So Xavier Rhodes, reason to get rid of him, we would save $6.1 million. He's currently the 8th highest paid corner in the NFL. We would get the highest return, obviously. He's a number 1 corner, but he is our only shutdown corner. So he's the one guy, he has that shutdown corner potential, but he did have an off year last year, so the Vikings would have to hope he would rebound. And I certainly don't think he lived up to a top 10 corner last year. But you look at 2017, I think he was the best corner that year. And then this year, you might be like, well, maybe top 20, but certainly not 8th. But I think he will stay, and hopefully we'll have a rebound year. I don't think we get rid of Rhodes. He's just too valuable to the team. Trae Wayne last year. last year of his deal, so he should be getting a big payday. I project him to get right around $6 million range. That's right around a top 25 corner. So we would get a decent return. I think maybe a second round pick or so. And I think he was the best overall corner full 16 weeks last year. So his value is decently high, but I think that's the reason to trade him. I think we have more talent around him, and moving to Mackenzie Alexander last year of his deal, and I think he'll come out for a cheaper than Trae Wayne's. I think somewhere 3.5 to maybe 4, maybe even 4.5 or 5 million range if the Vikings really push it. But I think he will be cheaper than Wayne's. And we would get an okay return, maybe get a third rounder for Mackenzie, and was fantastic second half of the year. So he has that momentum going from the end of 2018 to 19. I think the sign of Mike Hughes will push him, and if he doesn't do well, Mike Hughes and Holton Hill have that experience in the starting game, so we could have Mackenzie be in a higher role that he, I think, kind of took charge at the end of last year, saying, hey, I'm the man, I can be a player too if you want to sign me long term. So I think trade Trae Wayne's, get some return, and the Vikings should be set. So those were my 9 players that could be cut. Were there any other preferably underperforming veterans that should be cut, or maybe some younger players that could be traded that we don't need as much? Tell me that in the comment section down below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. I am excited for free agency to get going. Let's go.